I'm Eric Hayden.
I'm Nick Mason.
And this is Neon Static. Welcome to episode 19 of Neon Static. That's right, you heard it twice.
Yeah, it is episode 19 of episode 19. No edits.
Well, we have a lot of cool stuff in store for you. First off, the ban hammer falls. We'll talk about what got banned, and more importantly, what didn't and why, and more importantly, what do we think about it? The most important thing.
Exactly.
And besides that, Worlds is coming. Who cares? The Banlist.
Right. I mean, like, Worlds is like, we've known about it. I mean, like, it's out there. It's happening. Fine.
It happens every year.
It'll be cool. It'll be very cool to like hang out with people, but like, I'm not going to care about that until I decide on my decks. And I can't do that until we dig into the ban list and what changed.
But before we get into the episode, we want to thank our patrons whose support is helping us build a better show. You've heard it before. If you want to support the podcast and the YouTube channel, check out patreon.com/neonstatic. Should we do some news?
I think so. It's time for the 24/7 news cycle.
Nick, tell us, what is all the news in the world of Netrunner?
The biggest thing to come to Netrunner today. We have a CO coming up on the 21st of September. It's a Saturday tournament, so you get out, enjoy. It's going to be fun. Midgard Hobbies and Games. I always want to say comics. It was comics for so long. Anyway, Midgard Hobbies and Games, our home store, will be doing a little CO tournament there. It's going to be good.
It'll be great.
It's going to be the biggest news that comes out today, which isn't even news today. I think we talked about it last time.
Yeah. News can be old, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There is a new online tournament announced as well by Man in the Moon. It's the Worlds Showdown. It's an online tournament, and people are going to be trying out their World stuff. It'll be interesting.
Will they?
No, probably
will they be
not.
Trying out their World stuff?
Probably all of the testing groups will be playing some weird decoy decks, and have we talked enough about how that part of the meta frustrates me? No.
Feints
we haven't.
Feints within feints. Yeah.
Gotta open that scoring window with your trap deck. Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yep.
It's not cool.
Just play things, people. Anyway.
Yeah, just play the decks and prove you're good.
Yeah.
Take that. says the most washed out content creator.
Win only with like System Gateway Zayas. Is Zaya even in System Gateway? Yeah, like all System Gateway. So. Sure Gamble is your power card now. Anyway.
Yeah. So we have little news to spread. We don't do these often enough for this actually to be a reliable source of news. So I don't think anyone's relying on us to get their Netrunner news, but
that is
hopefully true. Maybe follow the No Signal Games blog. That's the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great. Let's get to the meat.
Let's go into the depths.
Okay, so the ban list got dropped. First of all, shout outs to plural shout outs to No Signal Games for notifying content creators a little bit early about this, which was pretty cool. We're actually recording this before everybody else knows about it, which is kind of neat. We're getting a chance to get an episode dropped on the day of the ban list announcement, which is on Friday.
Maximum engagement.
Yeah, I think it's great. It is quite cool, because otherwise this kind of stuff gets talked about and nobody wants to hear about it by the time we were actually able to record and edit a podcast and scheduling and stuff. So they give us like a week's notice, which is great. I did need to then pretend like I didn't know what the ban list was to friends, which was achievable. It turns out I'm not like brimming over going like, woo.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, like when I was on playtest in L5R, it's doable to just be like, oh, I don't know, but without like that cute little tone in my voice that I just gave that made it sound like you did know.
It was super cute.
Yeah. It's like what I'm saying is it's just very easy to lie to my friends.
I believe it. Okay, so if you missed the article, there'll be a link in the show notes of this episode, or you just go to NSG's website. But the Banlist article is there. They explain what got banned, what got unbanned. Spoilers: nothing got unbanned, and their reasoning behind it, which is cool. I like that, and what they considered as an alternative to what they decided. So, Nick, what'd they ban?
It's just World Tree. They just, rather than, slash and burn down this whole meta, like an agenda you're trying to score from hand.
Wow.
They just, I know, right? It's a good reference. They just slightly pruned the meta like a bonsai tree, but the tree was a whole tree that they cut down instead of just a tiny little bit of it. Does this metaphor work?
It's not. It's not a tortured metaphor at all. No.
Yep. No, it was perfect. Anyway, so it's just World Tree.
It's funny because World Tree's been around, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody cared about World Tree. And then, I don't know, 4 months ago, somewhere in there, maybe 3 months ago, Andre, it's all Andre's fault, really, is what I'm going to come back to.
Okay.
It's
all right.
Not. No, Andre did a stream where he created a World Tree Arasana deck, and it did pretty well. He ended up publishing it under the title Tech Tree. And then people played it a bit, and that was kind of fun. I played it in paper. I enjoyed it even in that setting for 3 or 4 games. And then once the novelty wore off, I think for a lot of people, they kind of went, it's maybe not the most consistent thing in the world. And it's a little difficult, unwieldy in person. You got to do a lot of shuffling. It's not the end of the world, but you do. And it didn't break the game. And I think people kind of moved on from it. And then when this set came out, I think the introduction of Muse and
Coalescence
were the tipping points that caused this deck to go into overdrive. What's your opinion of the World Tree Arasana deck that has, for a bit, it seemed pretty oppressive, but not necessarily like omnipresent? So I don't know. What's your take on that?
So my thought on it is basically that the deck has been kind of shaping the meta, even though it hasn't been super present at like top tables. Decks are kind of formed around the idea that there are going to be a bunch of Arasana decks out there doing that, like on the corp side, I mean. So a lot of the stuff that we've seen is based around that, but like it's really just an extension of what was going on. But honestly, like I just found the deck boring to play and to play against.
Like I said, it's really fun, and then some of the novelty wears off, and then you realize that all you're doing is infinitely tutoring for value for whatever you need all the time.
Tutoring and discounting, I should note. The fact that
for value,
you can trade up from, I got this Stone Ship chart room I don't need. I'll just get rid of that and save 3 money on the whatever, like
daily
Liberated account or daily casts. Yeah, like it is so efficient and so nuts at just like, you just start a run, you have nothing on the board except your World Tree, and by the end of the run, you have 2/3 of your rig and have made money somehow.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was not something where like on either side, like on the runner side, it was like, I don't care what you're doing, Corp. And on the Corp side, it felt like, well, nothing I'm doing matters. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's not a fun deck to play against.
That's my impression of it. Right. And like, I know that in response to this, the fine folks over at the EA Sports developed, tuned some of the re-education Asmari decks to go so fast to respond to it, to try and outpace it, I believe. At least that's what I think.
Yep.
Happened. But I don't like that deck either. We'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it makes sense. I don't think it's necessarily a healthy thing in a card game to say, oh, that whole aspect of the game, which is like the variance of the order in which you draw your cards, don't worry about that.
Right.
We got that for you. And actually, you know what? Because you don't have to worry about it, let me give you a discount on a bunch of shit. Like,
Yes.
it was a cool like carrot, but it turns out when you actually like get the carrot, it kind of tastes sour. It's a sour carrot.
Yeah, and like it felt cooler too, I think, when it had costs to playing it, basically. Like, so it is a 6 cost program. It's 2 MU. There weren't, prior to this most recent set, a lot of like good ways for Shaper to install it at a discount, like they can now with like, you trick shot and use that to pay for the SMC and part of the install cost and things like that. Like those kinds of things didn't exist. And then you couldn't also use it to trade in your coalescences and stuff for a huge amount of money over time. Like you would have to build this thing that, it could find you anything you wanted, but A, you had to get through some ice first, and B, you had to like pay money to get it out on the board. You had to find it. So you're probably running 3 copies, or you were like expecting to pay 8. Like there were all of these costs, and like the World Tree didn't itself fix those problems for you. And now it does.
Oh, they also got Physarum and Tangler.
Oh, yes. Yeah, obviously.
Which is another like way to get through stuff to get your World Tree value. Also, Trick Shot got introduced, so now not only do you have overclocks to do the SMC or Muse, funding into getting the World Tree, but you also have an additional 3 copies of a card to let you install this thing nice and early for very little money.
Yeah.
So it just kind of like all kind of came together. I feel like I don't know. I don't want to like try and vilify it totally. I think it makes sense that it got banned. I think that the meta was doing okay without it, but I didn't have to play it against it very much after I kind of, at least in our group, in our local meta, just like sort of complained about it a bit. But I think that like Derek was still on it. He just didn't play it against me all that often.
Yes. Yeah. I think Derek was playing it because, I don't know, it was fun. It would win games. It was fun for him, I guess. Derek has a different idea of what is fun.
He was putting you in runner prison.
Yeah.
In court prison.
Exactly. Yeah. Nothing you do matters. The runner gets to do whatever they want, and we're just waiting for the runner to win the game.
Yeah.
The first time that he ran into Pharos, it wasn't a triple advanced Pharos, I know, but he runs into a Pharos. I spend the 7 on the Pharos, and he ended up spending like net like 3 credits to break it. When he had no rig on board at the start of the run, he had like an SMC on board. And I'm like, okay, I got this. This is going to be fun.
I thought he like Arizona'd an SMC down and then popped it something.
I don't remember the exact sequence
Get a propeller,
of events.
break it, and then at the end of the turn, like turn that, or next turn go get into a coalescence or something. It kind of,
What happened was he started to resolve cards, and my brain was flooded with rage, and I cannot remember what happened after that, but I think he got richer. So I spent 7 credits. He made money, normal Netrunner things. The point is, that was a deeply unfun experience, but Derek loved it. So
sure.
Derek's a monster.
Our friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Our monsters.
He knows.
So what about everything else that didn't get banned, right? So the article explained the logic, the reasoning for why other things didn't get banned.
Or unbanned, for that matter.
Right. So you care to give us a summary?
Yeah, so they talked about a couple of different cards, and I kind of like have an overarching takeaway from everything, and that's basically that the meta is like really high powered, and if you take one thing away, like it's kind of a whack-a-mole thing. Like, yeah, you could ban Trick Shot, but like then we're just back into Hoshiko decks, doing Hoshiko things, and then everybody's like arguing about the price again, right? So there's a lot of really high power cards out there, especially in combination with a pretty wide card pool. So it's difficult to, without having a huge ban list, to make a significant impact. So this is one deck that everybody hated. Well, everybody sane hated. And it is gone now, and we no longer need to worry about it. But specific card-wise, they talked about Trick Shot. It's a very strong card. They talked about it going basically onto a watch list, but they like it because it makes shapers do something. Like they have to like interact with things, which is good, I think, overall, right? You'd probably agree, right? Shaper just sitting back and waiting until their death rig is up is not the best.
Yeah, although at least that playstyle gives an opportunity for the core player to rush.
Yes.
But, rushing generally means that you're overextending a bit. And if the shaper player is just sitting back, they can probably go steal stuff.
Yeah.
If it seems like it's in the remote.
Yep. But yeah,
I do like the reasoning that, Trick Shot makes runs happen.
Yeah. The other one on the runner side that was sort of top of their watch list was self-modifying code, which honestly makes sense as a target if you were thinking about other ones than World Tree, because it would reduce the ability to easily tutor up World Tree, and Muse is much worse at getting World Tree because you then are spending 8 credits, which you do with SMC as well, but 3 MU in a deck that really wants to cycle through its MU. So, maybe that would be better. But basically they said that a lot of the lists that they're seeing aren't playing 3x SMC.
Right.
And because it's an iconic card to Shaper and such a, it's an old school card, it's been around for a while and all that, they didn't want to get rid of it. And that strikes me as weird reasoning. I get that there's iconic cards and stuff, but they printed cards that are very close to the same sort of effect. There's a lot of different things that can fetch things out of your deck for Shaper now, right? I mean, you build it right, you can spark
There's
into
Muse.
it. You can Muse into
okay,
it.
Spark. Spark doesn't count.
Well, but I mean, with the right deck setup, it finds you the one specific program you're looking for. Obviously, it's got weird restrictions, but still.
All right. This is a fascinating dichotomy of player who played older metas versus you who has a different perspective on the game. I agree that SMC is pivotal to Shaper's identity in my mind. They are tightly coupled. And the idea that a Spark is a card that gets a program out of your deck, while true, there's cognitive dissonance there for me in that Shaper, I want to play Shaper as a toolbox deck.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
I want
that's fair.
I want one copy of a bunch of different programs that solve different problems and can pull out the right tool out of the Swiss Army knife deck at the right time. Spark is blunt force, find one program, go bash head.
Yes, definitely. No, you're not wrong there. It was a stretch, obviously, but
yeah, Muse is much closer.
Exactly.
But Muse is Trojan specific. You would really kind of hate to be I Muse this other program and now it's hosted on here and I'm eating an MU for the rest of the game.
Yeah, but it tutors from anywhere.
That is cool, but I don't know, to take down the World Tree deck that does all the tutoring. I think cutting things off at the tutoring card is the World Tree tutoring card is the better option.
Yeah,
SMC.
I'd agree there because it just doesn't touch any other decks. And if you don't think any of the other Shaper decks are a problem, and I don't really think that any of the other ones are, just, based on having played some of them a little bit or played against them, Lat
and Kit are very good. There's the new Isla decks that are doing a different kind of tutoring. They're using Rosetta 2.0, which is pretty wild to see that card actually being used, but with Coalescence, it does some neat things. I don't know. Have you seen this deck?
I have not. No, I didn't know there was an Isla deck out there.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to
it's
start talking about Akiko Nisei.
no, that has also been the girls deck has been making this round. No, Rosetta 2.0 it's a criminal resource. It's a virtual resource for 4 influence.
Whoa.
And it says it's three to install. Click remove an installed program from the game. Search your stack for a non-virus program. Shuffle your stack, then install that program, lowering the install cost by the cost of the program removed from the game. So you can, if you get the Rosetta down, which you can find with Isla, you can install it. Install a coalescence, empty it. Click this. Go find another coalescence, empty it. Click this. Go find another coalescence, empty it. Click this. Now start finding your rig. Or you can do click this to get a muse into a coalescence, and then you can remove muses to go get the permanent pieces, right?
Yeah, and that keeps your coalescences in the bin so you can simul-chip them back and make the money that way. And yeah. Huh.
Well, they're removed from the game, so you can't simul-chip them back.
Well, no, but if you did the muse for coalescence, then RFG the muse to go get another muse. So that would avoid RFGing your coalescence. So
you can get a whole turbine rig in 4 turns or something.
Wow.
It's quite good.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's just that's a neat new idea that came out of these other cards. I don't think coalescence was on the ban consideration list, which is, I'm glad.
I like coalescence. Yes, it makes a lot of money and everything when played with all these other cards, but I don't know, it's an econ piece that takes MU. That is always going to fight with other things, and I like that tension around MU and Shaper.
Yeah, I like tempo forward programs. I like the programs that are disposable. You put them down, you do a job real quick, and it moves you forward, and then you can trash it, go do some other cool thing. I just like combos, and that's a very straightforward slot into any card installation trick combo thing that can make it more feasible. Yeah,
it's pretty neat. So SMC, I think I'm fine with it sticking around. I was thinking of it as a kind of, you don't want to actually ban World Tree because you like the kind of second or third tier decks that it enables, the weird stuff. But, maybe those decks just aren't worth having if the problem is going to be at the top tables. So then they talk about Gold Farmer, which is an ice I had to look up when they mentioned it because I don't remember it being legal.
Well, when we all bought into and started our local startup scene, it had already been banned.
Yes, and we just barely started playing startup when Ashes rotated out of startup. So anyway, Gold Farmer. I'm going to read it because I don't, like I said, I didn't know what it did. It is a 3-cost NBN ice with 1 strength. Has the text, whenever the runner breaks a printed subroutine on this ice, they lose 1 credit. Then it has 2 subroutines, end the run unless the runner pays 3 credits. So it is extremely annoying and expensive to break. And
it's barrier.
Oh, yes, barrier. 3 influence. That's really annoying.
It's annoying, particularly out of GameNet. It's the most annoying because they res it for 3. You break it for, I believe Cleaver breaks it the most efficiently, unless there's something else I'm not thinking of, because they are already at strength. You pay 1 credit to break both subs, but then you lose a credit for each sub. So it breaks it for 3.
Yep.
And then because you lost 2 credits, GameNet gains 2. So they resed it for 1 and you had to break it for 3, and it's going to keep making them money.
Yep.
Outside of GameNet and outside of Cleaver, it's still minimum 4, if not 6. Some, I don't know, some ridiculous number to break. Sometimes it's not good.
That seems insane. It seems really good. It's cheap and cheerful barrier. It's a good gear check. And the reasoning on it, I thought was interesting, actually. They said basically that it wasn't as good in NBN as it was in other places, specifically in Ag Infusion. which I could definitely see. Ag Infusion loves to have a piece of ice that is really efficient for them that they can just drag you through multiple times. Sometimes that's the Anansi. Sometimes it's this thing that just makes you incredibly broke. And also, runners hated seeing the card. It just wasn't fun to play against. So
I was trying to figure out what about Ag Infusion makes, like, why is there a natural synergy with Gold Farmer?
So what it means is that you now have an early game thing that you can boop them into that they hate to see. Instead of having to save up and get your Anansi up and then set up and all this, you can just boop them into the Gold Farmer over and over again. And now you're taxing them a click for the run and some money, maybe, depending on, do they choose to spend the money or, to try to break it and get through, or are they just bouncing off this? Because
I guess I don't know. I equate Ag Infusion with, like, you're gonna slam me into an Anansi or some other nasty check, not an end the run. Like, I don't care.
Well, sure, but I mean, it will give Ag Infusion more time to set that up without having to play like a rush kind of game at all.
Yeah.
They can just ignore that because they're going to res a Gold Farmer at some point and you're going to hate your life from that point on. They don't even have to go find their 8 strength or 8 cost ice that they're going to run you through. They'll get to that when they get to it. So,
okay. So, it was being considered because NBN lost Bologna, so there was, like, room for a power card to help NBN as a faction, but they were afraid of it in Ag Infusion and other decks that might import it.
Yeah.
Sure. I agree with that. It does seem like a bit of just a pain, just one of those it's just money, but I never played against it, so I don't really have a great perspective. Other cards that got considered YDL. Nick, you have a much stronger opinion on YDL than I do. Your Digital Life.
Yeah, I hate this card.
I love it.
It's such a cool, fun card to play. It feels great when you just, get to slam it down and make like 6 or 8 credits for one card and all this. And you've got a whole grip full of things that you can do with. But it makes it impossible to keep the corp down on credits. Like, just so impossible to, like, they always have this like cheap bounce back in YDL. And then sometimes also it is a 2 credit card that they just now have all the money they're going to need for the rest of the game. Huzzah.
Yeah. The fact that there's no upper limit is maybe one of the sins of YDL, I guess, but I don't know how strongly I agree with myself there. The YDL is a card that pushes you as the core player to push the envelope and to overextend and draw, which can be dangerous as the corp. You don't really want to have, a grip full of 10, 12, HQ full of 12 cards, because you're going to have to discard a bunch of them. And while generally speaking, you are finding that the cards that are going to help move you forward in the game, if you draw too much too quickly, you're click limited. You can't get all that ice that you drew down to protect all the agendas that you drew, and then you're having to deal with flood. There are cards that help mitigate this. Midnight 3 Arcology out of PD has been a popular option that lets you draw 3 cards and then skip your discard step for that turn. That's very effective.
Yeah.
In making this good. And then there are some decks that are using what's the 3/1, the neutral 3/1 that lets you get an increased hand size.
Superconducting Hub.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, but I think even that one has fallen off. Like, that was one of the early ones that we saw in a bunch of YDL builds. I don't know that I have seen it too much recently, but
yeah, it was, I think, an early like QTM deck, but I think mostly out of that one PD deck, the Man of the Moon's Big Deal deck. That's its main place where I'm seeing it played a lot. Like YDL PD, YDL.
It's a big thing in a lot of
punitive decks.
Yeah, well, punitive and specifically Jinteki decks, because they can play Bacterial. Like, Bacterial's the thing. You draw 7 cards. One of them's going to be YDL, and the other are going to turn into money.
Fair.
So, and you don't care about getting flooded with agendas because you're playing a punitive deck. You need them to steal them. So like that.
Okay. If we're choosing a card to ban out of that deck, to take that deck apart, it is bacterial programming 100% of the time.
Well, yes. But like,
so
there's a lot of other decks that could run off punitive. That's just like the best one, you know? And I don't even know that like the Restoring Humanity is like the best version of it, but you know what I mean, right? The Poisoned Archives, or you're going to steal 6 and die kind of thing.
I like the light touch, by the way, from NSG here. Banning a single card I like it. I don't want the answer to every top deck to be like, well, we got to ban it. We got to ban a card. We got to ban a card. We got to ban a card. You know, it's just like, okay, like if you give people a little time, if a deck is truly like the best, generally speaking, there is tech in the game that can deal with whatever it is. It just takes people playing the tech after kind of getting tired of this other deck ruling the meta.
Right. So that actually brings us to the next card that they had talked about, which was Punitive Counterstrike. Right. So we just brought that up as like, it's kind of the engine behind a bunch of decks. It's a win con unto itself. And it's pretty easy to like build a deck around it. You just throw in a bunch of 5/3s that do something that benefits you when they're scored. Or stolen rather, and then you probably can punitive somebody, you know? You throw in data loops or whatever as well. Good stuff. Basically, it has, like you said, it has available counters, and people figured that out and started playing them. Like Stoneship Chart Room is all over the place right now, and it's because after they play the first punitive, you can use it to not die.
And Class Act is another.
Yep. Yeah, you steal something and then you go, great, I slam my Class Act. I have, 8 or 9 cards in hand. Good luck killing me. Or obviously, I think the other one they mentioned is, Steelskin. Yeah, so.
Steelskin helps, but not in you steal 6 points scenarios.
Like, so that to me is good reasoning on punitive, but like, there's no counterplay to IDL. Just to go back to our, people will learn to play around it.
Sure it is. Yeah. You just run HQ and you find that one copy in 12 and you trash it with freedom.
No, it's okay because then they just draw the other copy out of their deck the next turn.
Yeah. Anybody watch our stream?
Yeah, this literal thing that happened. Stupid. Anyway, so yeah, YDL. Bleh. You know what?
I like it. Stop. YDL's cool.
You know what convinced me that I should hate on YDL? And this is credit to Derek.
I knew you were going to say Derek.
He said, so long as YDL is around, you can't play Doof because they just are able to pick themselves back up off the ground, and you spent 2 clicks to make them do that.
I don't agree. I think that Doof is very effective when you play it in the right scenario. I mean, it's especially effective out of the Red Steve deck that I've been playing, where you can recur Doofs and you can also steal singleton credits using that other cybernetic, not Zenith.
Panweave.
Panweave, thank you.
Okay. But I want to play Doof and Sable.
Also, economic denial crim is like kind of miserable to play against, and it's fine that there's a counter to it in YDL. It also requires you to draw a bunch of cards to play the thing. So that there's a downside to that. Then if they're just drawing a bunch of cards and playing YDL just to have money, then they're probably drawing agendas. So built-in counter, I think.
Disagree. Hate it. Anyway, moving on.
I don't know how statistics work. Cool. So our thoughts. Nick, you have thoughts.
I have thoughts. I think this is a really good Worlds ban list because it leaves most of the meta prior to that intact.
Which is healthy. It's a healthy meta.
Right. Yeah, there's a ton of variety. There's a bunch of back and forth. I mean, we've seen a bunch of different Shaper decks do well, and occasionally also Anarch decks.
It's wild that Anarch is not ruling the roost like it has forever.
I know. But you print enough trick shots. So
everyone immediately started griping about Shaper, by the way, which is and it's like, well, whoever's on the top, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But to me, it's good because Worlds is now going to be a sort of showcase of the RWR meta in full bloom, so to speak. People have tried out all the weirdness. They have decided on, what is best and what is not. And then the one deck that is like legitimately abusive and both boring to play and play against, they got rid of. Well, one of the decks.
I was going to say.
I was going to say, yeah.
You said the
wait,
one deck,
we'll wait
and
for
I'm
your.
sure there's more. I can.
We'll
think
wait
of,
for your comments. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the overall impact though is going to be like secondary ripples kind of thing. Like a lot of Wayland have been playing SDS drone deployment, and I wonder how much of that is just. At least when I played it, it was great to kill World Tree with it, and like it just stopped the World Tree decks in their tracks. Look, I'm no master deck builder or anything, but maybe it becomes a little less popular as the go-to 5/3 for them. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Emmett from the Lego movie, but with Netrunner.
What?
Have you watched that movie?
Yeah, years ago.
He was a master builder. He could build without plans. You need plans to build your Netrunner decks. You're welcome for this incredible analogy. Response?
Does this mean I have to glue my cards together?
Yes. You have to put the small circle pieces on the cards together like Lego. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Are those all of your thoughts? You don't have or should I provide some thoughts? I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess in response to your one truly toxic deck comment, I think that the re-education combo NBN kill decks are. I hate them. I don't like. I feel dread when I sit down next to them or across from them. But I like NBN as a faction. Those poor babies. So don't take away their last good thing, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm torn on that. I would love to see re-education banned. I just feels like there's very little counterplay to that freaking 5/3.
Yeah, agreed. I'm not a fan of those decks. They, at least from the games that I have played with them, which are admittedly very few because I did not have fun with them, they seem to have a very linear game plan and kind of boring, repetitive gameplay.
It's not Netrunner in its normal, pure form. I like Netrunner in weird forms, but the fact that it's just, can you get one? Can you score the one thing and kill versus like, can I keep you out before you can set up? We're racing. Who gets there first? I don't know. Like it.
Right. It scores a 5/7 agenda is what it does.
Yeah.
Right. And like a 5/7 agenda is unfair. Like that shouldn't be a thing. But it's only a 5/7 for the corp. And for you, it's just a blank 5/3.
Right.
So
yeah, I think that's a good way to vocalize it. Yeah. Turbine. A lot of people wanted Turbine banned. It's funny that I don't think Turbine even show up on NSG's like we were considering it.
No,
I
it was
didn't think
not
so. Yeah.
in the list.
Turbine rigs where Turbine, Buzzsaw, Cleaver, Echelon are kind of samey and strong. That's kind of the standard package that you'll see a lot of the times, but it is relatively slow these days. I actually don't see a ton of Turbine right now. And it just sort of leaves, like if they ban Turbine, I think it leaves the corpse open to just like turtling up with Hyperstrong Ice. And then what do you do about that without tools like Turbine? It is actually like something that's keeping corpse from going crazy with ice, although they still are doing it out of Ag Infusion and some other places. I'm not sure where that lands. I've argued both sides.
Yeah. I think Turbine is probably fine. My bigger issue is honestly that like the impact that Turbine has on Cleaver and Buzzsaw is probably the thing that I have more issue with, because I think those cards are fine when they have 3 strength, and when it is
they are bad when they have those.
Yeah, exactly. They're good at breaking the little cheap stuff, and then you run into something big, and you're like, great, I'm paying $1 bajillion to get through this, like Vampire Nasa or whatever.
Right.
So, sure, like that aspect of it is really the part where like the interaction I think is an issue. And that to me seems more like an issue with those two cards than with Turbine, because I think Turbine, in the way that it eats up some MU, you have to find it. You probably don't want to run more than one. It kind of has its own downsides in it, whereas it removes all the downsides from Cleaver and Buzzsaw. So,
yeah. And what's also, if you were to ban Turbine, you'd have to ban the other one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I can never remember the name of it. There you go.
Where that's the other, like, it's just going to pump up a bunch of non AI icebreakers. It's different. It's more nuanced, I think, but you'd have to ban them both to get that effect. Okay, so what about unbanning Begalter? I think this legitimately could be considered.
I think I'm pretty much convinced it should be done.
So I've heard arguments when I bring this up, and Derek, credit to Derek who kind of raised this conversation with us. What about like giving Criminal back a breaker that's decent? Because the Criminal breaker suites kind of suck right now. I think they are the least like overtuned anyway. And they people I've heard respond sort of generically saying that like Killer Diversity is really good right now. So if you bring Begalter back, everyone's just going to be on Begalter. But let's consider what killers do we actually see in the meta right now? I'd say 90% of the time it's Echelon.
Yep.
That's like the killer.
Right.
Other killers that we see are Revolver in good decks that are happy to reinstall things. It's been featured in the Lat deck that Sokka's been playing, in a handful of other decks.
Simulchip
It's a good
decks,
breaker.
the Steve deck, I think, was playing it, but
Right.
stuff where you can recur things.
Right. Other killers, the only other killers that I see ever played are Ika and Orca in a single deck. And then like
even Ika has kind of gone since Ari became World Tree instead of like general value UAV kind of stuff.
Right. And then like if an Anarch is absolutely desperate, they might play a Noom. I guess Carmen exists, I guess, but it's
so bad,
really expensive, and like you have to run to install it for a reasonable amount of money, and then it's just a lot of money to use.
You have to run and
Drafter
succeed.
for 4 credits.
You have to run and succeed to be able to install Carmen, and most of the things that you're really scared about running into when you don't know what it is are things that Carmen breaks. So you kind of maybe shouldn't run into like just face check things as much until you have your Carmen down. But to do that, you might have to face check some things. Sorry. Or you're spending a click on running archives, in which case you might as well have clicked for the money.
Okay, so let's consider Carmen. It breaks an Anansi for 5, a Drafter for 4. A Winchester is either 4 or 5 credits. 5, we're going to assume it's on HQ.
Yep.
5 credits. A Begalter breaks Drafter for 2 net, which is good, but you need to have 4 in the first place.
Yep.
That's very good. That's the best that we do, I think, out of any of these breakers, for sure.
Yep.
Anansi is still 5 net. Ansel's 4. What is Ansel for Carmen?
It's 1 pump, 3 breaks. So 5.
Yeah, so it's 1 cheaper there. It's the same for Anansi. Winchester is 4, so it's 1 cheaper there. Okay. Begalter is, and then like Echelon Math, I guess, a lot of these things, generally speaking, with a full rig are about on par.
Right.
Begalter's 4 influence.
Right. How many places have 4 influence to spare? Like, can turbine rigs out of Shaper spare 4 influence when they're already spending a bunch on the Buzzsaw Cleavers? Certainly they can't in Anarch, right?
It's very good when you combine it with the turbine, I think. That's something to worry about. Like Shaper would probably import it.
I think Criminal would be importing Turbine a bunch.
Yeah, that's possible, I guess. That's 4 too, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. I think you could get away with that pretty easily.
I guess my argument is that I think that it would, if anything, improve killer diversity, because right now it's pretty much just Echelon, Revolver, kind of Ika, maybe Orca. Like, and you might get a 5th breaker in there.
Right. Exactly. And like, it would compete with Echelon, because Echelon is the one where, like, when you can't make your influence work, you got to go with Echelon. And if you have some extra influence, you might as well throw in Bugalter, kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
that'd be an interesting trade-off. I don't know. 4 influence seems right at that, that break point. I don't know.
Crim is hurting a little bit right now. Not like dead, but it is hurting. It's flagging behind compared to the other ones. All right, that's my pitch. You have a few more things, and then we'll.
Yeah. So the only thing I kind of wanted to talk about was I've been playing a lot of Ob recently, and considering that a card that costs 6 takes 2 MU and also trashes things to tutor them, just got banned. I wanted to defend Ob just in case anybody out there was wondering. Don't ban Ob.
Yeah, don't ban Ob.
The big thing about Ob is that it can't trade up. You're always trading down. You go from a 4 to a 3 and all that.
That's true.
Right. So you can't trade away your, I don't know, Stone Chip Chart Room to get a 3 cost liberated account or something.
Yeah, it sure did that.
Yeah, it sure did, didn't it? So also you need other activators to actually trash things. So whereas with World Tree, once it's on the table, you just get it every time the first run you succeed at. Ob, you would need the target to trash and also some card that said trash a card. So
right, yeah, you need the ability on something to do the trashing for you. It's not just built into Ob. Once per turn, choose a card and trash it and do the thing.
Right. And most of the things that you ended up trashing with Ob to go hunt for things were assets, upgrades, that kind of stuff.
R, not
true,
Pestilence.
Yes, true. R. Very often, like, obviously there's the exception there, I think, is like Border Control and gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but the ice that the 5 cost envelopment. There we go. Ice that trash themselves that you can then use to fetch stuff with on the runner's turn. That's like the big exception there. But other than that, it's pretty like the runner has an ability to trash them because they can run at your assets and trash them so that you can't trash them for value. So it has more counterplay. It's a lot easier to trash an asset that a corp has than it is to trash a program, I would argue.
I think I agree with all this. I
think
you've convinced me. Ob should stay.
Ob's balanced and fine. Don't take my fun away, please.
I think it does. It has so many avenues for interesting deck building that it's worth its weight in gold.
Agreed. And to be clear, I don't think there was any realistic chance that Ob was going to get banned. It's not an abusive card, at least in the current meta and all that, like World Tree was. I don't know. I found the parallels between the two interesting. Green cards that trash things to tutor things. And I thought exploring them would be an interesting kind of parallel.
They're dark green.
They're both green, okay?
It's true. Let's move on to some quality time. It's the quality time.
Oh, sorry. I forgot the song.
Okay. This is the official segment where we talk about fun non-Netrunner stuff.
Yes.
It's official. What have you been up to, Nick? Outside this game.
I want to preface this. I'm going to talk about Marvel Snap.
Ooh.
You should not
Cool.
You should not start playing this game.
Don't. Bad. Good. All right. Tell them why not.
It is legitimately the most predatory card game model I have ever seen, bar none, in anything. They will sell you individual cards for $100 American.
Really?
No joke.
Okay, and I want to know, I know this is obvious for anyone who knows what Marvel Snap is. It's not a physical card game. This
Correct.
is a digital card game.
Yes.
So for those $100, you get pixels.
Yes. And the best part is, for the people who probably have $100 to be spending on these cards, they probably already have the ability to play the mechanical card. You are paying $100 for a different art look on the card.
God.
Yes.
Well, okay. Is that predatory though?
That part isn't. It's all the other stuff around it. It is legitimately difficult to describe how bad the game is at giving you FOMO and exploiting it. And like, they're so good at designing these bundles of cards. They're like, okay, you get these keys. Each key has a 25% chance to get you one of these cards. And one of the cards will be amazing, really good, obvious winner. Everybody wants this card. And the other ones will be absolute trash.
Yeah. Any of these games that have randomness and rarity built in to the purchase model, I just can't stomach it.
Yeah. It is.
No, thank you.
You should not play it. That said, just gonna check over on Steam here. 425 hours.
It's pretty good
in it. I'm collection level 13,000 or something like that. What I'm saying is, I want you to imagine that I am someone on the street approaching you and telling you about how great this new type of fentanyl
Heroin.
I have is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you should not listen to me. It's a very fun game. But
drugs.
It is infuriatingly predatory and soul sucking and money sucking. Anyway, that's the game I've been playing a lot, but I'm also very angry at. How about you?
Well, for me, video games, I believe I'm working on Ascension level 18 in Slay the Spire. It's been a little bit since I've been playing that quite as fervently because I kind of started beating my head against a wall, going like, why can't I get through? This is with Ironclad. Lower Ascension levels on other characters, but great game. If you haven't played Slay the Spire, it's fantastic. Go play it. It's like $12 on Steam everywhere. I've been reading the Stormlight archives per your recommendations, and I say reading. When I say reading, you should always translate Eric reading to Eric listening to an audiobook because Eric can't read. Eric don't read. I can't.
Eric
I can't
read good.
I don't
Words
read good.
hard.
No. Mostly attention level and just kind of going, oh, I could be playing a video game, or oh, I could be editing a podcast, or I just don't do it.
Yep.
But Stormlight archives are pretty good. I'm on Oathbringer right now, which is the third in the series. I've read through the first two and then the novella with Lift in there, and I've been enjoying them.
Yeah, good stuff.
What else? I've been playing Elden Ring again because like Andre and Jeff started playing Elden Ring, and then I saw it and went, that looks fun. I should do it. Also, I never did the DLC. So I got the DLC and went in our local off-topic Discord going like, should I start the game again or just pick up my old character? And got convinced to start the game again. So now that's a lot of time. Elden Ring's a long game.
Yeah, it's a long game. And like they put the DLC like late.
I bet.
So you have to kill both what's his name? The guy who rides
I can't
the
wait for you to
tiny
know
horse.
the names of the bosses in Elden Ring.
Yeah. The one that I remember is Moog, the blood guy, who's in the basement down there. You know who I mean.
I actually don't off the top of my head, but I was just thinking of like Malia, Ralia, Renalia, Namalia, Falia, Jalia. Like, oh my God. Our Martin, like, come up with something unique here. They're all...
Yes. You are correct. Yeah, that's absurd. No, it's the one who's the big guy who throws rocks at you and like you can summon a billion people to fight him, and he's riding around on his tiny little
Radon.
horse. There you
That's
go.
Radon.
Oh, I can't wait for you to know the names of the bosses, Eric.
I know that because I just beat Radon again. And also,
okay, fine.
Interesting playing it a second time, I did not realize that you could resummon the NPCs in that fight.
Oh,
That,
yeah.
like, when they die, like the whole way to fight the guy is to like summon them, go do some damage while they're distracting him. They die, you go resummon and repeat.
Yep. I also
did not know that.
I do love the joke in that level where one of the signs you can summon Patches. And Patches,
can?
Yes. And Patches takes a look around and leaves.
Oh,
He unsummons
awesome.
himself. He's just
I
like,
have not found Patches in that fight. That's funny. I
Yeah.
wonder if you needed to like do something to have him there.
maybe. Yeah. But no, one of them I got was a sign for Patches. And I'm like, great, I'll summon Patches. This would be, and he
Patches
just goes,
is such
nope,
an
and
asshole.
leaves.
I love the running Patches joke in all the Souls games. It's so great.
Yeah.
He's the one connecting thread in all the games.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know. I finished my deck. Basically, I have one last thing. I'm getting some surgery soon, so we'll see if I can use my hands. That's exciting. I'm looking forward to like being able to feel my fingers like all the time again. I have carpal
Fair
tunnel
enough. Yeah. All right.
in both of my wrists, so that's what I'm getting taken care of. So that'll be nice.
Yeah.
That's it. Prepping for Worlds, keeping my
Yes.
family alive. You know, the fun stuff.
Yeah. All right. I think it's time to wrap it up.
Okay, I guess if you say so. That's a wrap for episode 19 of Neon Static. We've been your hosts, Eric.
And Nick.
And, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do the bell thing. Watch for our bi-weekly in-person streams. We have fun. We have quite a bit of fun. I love those. They're
so
a
good.
highlight of my bi-weekly Mondays. And it's a highlight of the day itself. That would make of the week, every other week. This makes more sense. And if you enjoy our content, please consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/neonstatic.
I just want to say real quick, it's the highlight of your fortnight. It even rhymes.
Oh, Fortnite.
Mhm.
Also, can we just appreciate the creativity on butt and whole comments in Elden Ring games?
And finger. Why?
Yeah.
They just put rump in as a word you can select to put into your
So-
messages.
My children wanted me very badly. They always tell me to read all the messages. And sometimes if it's like behind a corpse, it's leaning over something, I just don't.
No, it's not a good message. That's
Nope, won't be a good one.
that message is a trap. It'll kill me. I can't do that.
But like they were like, how do you leave a message? Can you leave a message? And I was like, can you write whatever, like some complicated sentence? And I said, no, you have to do specific words. That's why they all sound so funny. And so I showed him, and we started a message together, just kind of in a random place that didn't make any sense. And we put praise down, and then like we're scrolling through the words, and they're like, "Ooh, rump!" They like praise the rump, and I'm like, okay. I put it down, and they giggled maniacally. They loved it. And they have been walking around my house for about a week, just bursting out into laughter and going, "Praise the rump."
You need to teach them to say that while doing the praise the sun stance.
Oh, nice. Yes. That would
Then truly
Is
they
that
shall
child
be
abuse? I'm
initiated.
not sure. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening to this podcast we got here.
Yeah, and remember to run with your eyes closed, because what you can't see can't hurt you.
That's right.